What up, Thomas?
What's going on, Mr. Hurd? How are you today?
Good. Another day, another podcast. Let's get it cracking.
Yeah, I'm
So we
excited
missed
about.
last week. I hate when people say I'm excited about. I despise that. There's two words. I'm excited about and awesome. I hear that a lot.
Well, then I say it.
Awesome.
I say it a lot. I
Do
say,
you?
yeah, I do. I say awesome. I say I'm excited. It's like part of how I pump myself up and feel good about things.
Well, I think what I mean is more like when you hear other people saying, "Oh, I'm so excited about doing that." Like, are you really, or do you just feel obligated to say that in
Huh.
order to get them excited to listen to you drone on about nonsense like we're about to do here? But I
It's an
hear that a
interesting.
lot in podcasts or in like Instagram lives or someone's announcing their new thing. Like, I'm so excited about that. Yeah, but nobody else is.
It's true. It's true. You're right. You
It always
are.
gets under my skin with that kind of stuff when I hear it. And then when the overusage of any word and awesome has been getting under my skin lately. I've heard it a lot.
Yeah, it's we sometimes you run out of words. Sometimes you feel like you run out of words. Like it's like, all right, well, what can I use for this today? And that's where I think that's part of the English language. It gets boring after a while. I mean, there's no excitement in the English language.
Mm.
There's no words that are thrilling or exhilarating.
Well, I think you can have a thrilling word
Yeah,
if it's meant for that context, right? It's like my
correct.
daughter the other day was using a curse word in the wrong environment, but in the
Uh-huh.
perfectly right context.
Okay.
And I had to at the dinner table be like, home. That's for home. Like, because
Yeah.
we let her, she's 9, and we let her use the English language for what it's there for, and she's very appropriate with it. Like she doesn't, and there's certain things we don't let her say, so don't I'm
Yeah, of
not that bad
course.
of a parent.
Yeah.
But that like she'll be like, I've heard her be like that. It's such bullshit, like that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
And the other day we were at the dinner table and she was saying something and she said it, and there was no reason for her to use such vulgar language in that moment. And I had to stop her. And I'm like, why are you saying that right now? Like, I don't mind if you do it, but if you're using it as filler words and other things, then don't use it. And maybe that's my aversion to like
Right.
awesome or I'm so excited, because I think it's just people's lack of knowing how to express some other emotion, so they fill it with that. That's awesome. Like, or, oh, I'm so excited, guys.
Right.
All right, let's just go through it. Now we've almost done that here.
Yeah, look at that.
So what have you been up to lately, man?
Oh man, let's see. Listen, there's a few different things that were on my brain that I really wanted to talk about today. I'm seeing a pattern in a lot of people right now, and I don't know if it's a reflection of what's going on in the United States or, people. There's a lot of lack mindset around money lately, and we're seeing a lot of it in some of our clients, even this lack mindset around, I got to hold on to money and build a reserve. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, how to really how do business owners properly manage their finances? How do they properly, decide and make decisions on what they should be spending money on, what they need to build as a reserve? Because we don't really talk about what our process is with a lot of our clients, unless they're in a specific program that we're in. So I just wanted to touch on some of the mindset, but a lot of it is mindset around money, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people come into a business and they have this lack mindset because they grew up with no money, and money was not used as a healthy tool for a lot of people. And we've talked about this in the past, but I'm just seeing that a lot of business owners misuse, or I don't know. I don't know if it's a misuse or they don't appropriate appropriately or they don't budget appropriately. And then they get caught with their pants around their legs and they're looking for now more access to money.
Mm.
So, take the client that we're talking about. Like there's one client in particular that can't make payroll this week. It's not that he doesn't have the work. He just doesn't have the cash flow that's supporting the operations of the business, right? And that lack, and he has a lack mindset around money to start with, because he's always afraid of never having enough. And it's like every single month, I feel like we're starting to see that he's still not in that abundant mindset place, even with all the jobs he has and all of that. The revenue is just not, the cash flow is just not there. So we should maybe talk about cash flow and revenue sources and how that all works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But people who come into situations with a lack mindset, from my opinion and my expertise in, 25 years in finance, is people who think that way. When they actually have money, they go the opposite end. Then they become like spendthrifts.
Right.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I could just buy this and I could spend that and I could do these. And what's really happening is they're at the ends of the spectrum, right? And they don't have a business owner mindset. And, you have to come at being a business owner, especially when it comes to the money part of it, without emotion, right? It's like, these are just facts and figures, literally. They're literally facts and figures, and they just go in their respective columns, and you move them from column A to column B when you're moving money, and you see on paper the effects of that without any emotion. It's just a red number or a black number. That's it. That's all it really is. And when you move those things without emotion and you see a red number, that means you can't do that, or you better have something set up to fix that black number. And what I find is most people who were in a lack mindset move forward, they start making money, they spend it, is now they just think it's magically going to come in all the time. Right. And what they really need to do is plan for that, because this person specifically we're talking about, it's not like it was a surprise.
No.
They knew they had payroll coming up, and they knew money hadn't arrived yet. And yes, they might have crossed their fingers and held their breath hoping things were going to get paid. But when you're dealing with bills and things like that, especially when it's payroll, other people's lives, like, you have to really prepare for that. It can't be at the 11th hour of all of a sudden, like, oh shit, what am I going to do? It has to be like weeks before that. That means if you don't have access to other capital, meaning if you don't have credit cards, if you don't have a cash reserve account, if you don't have a line of credit, if you don't have any of those things, well, that literally means cutting expenses.
Yep.
Okay. And that's all it comes down to. And people are like, well, if I cut expenses, then I can't do the work. Well, yeah, the first expense you're going to have to cut is you. And then there are other things. Right. And you have to be very prudent about what you're doing here when it comes to the money. Like, you're a professional now. Be professional.
Correct. You brought up a really good point, the emotion of money, right? The emotion of money is what drives a lot of that lack mindset. It's a very emotional thing. They don't stick to the facts and the figures. They don't look at the objective, right? A plus B equals C. They don't see that. It becomes very emotional. There's all these things tied to it because of fear and anxiety and stress. And, this person in particular literally called me yesterday in a panic mode, that he was panicking that he wasn't going to be able to make payroll. And it was a very emotional thing. And what I had to do was talk him off the ledge to get him to start to just see the facts and figures and start figuring out the solutions, right? And get to the solutions and figure out, okay, what can we do that would not be as disruptive to the business and to the people? So do we split payroll? Do we just pay everybody on Monday? Hopefully the checks will come in. Who do we go after and try to get the accounts receivable in and try to get that money transferred into the bank, and just start doing all of the solutions and figuring out what is the best solution in this situation. And sometimes you just shit out of luck, and it's not, there is no solution other than you just can't pay everybody, and you have to wait until the money comes in, and then you got to find ways to make it up to the people and hope that you still have everybody around next week, because that's bad morale.
That's what it comes down to. Is you might not have those people around. They might quit and be like, hey, I can't be in this situation again. And if that's the worst case scenario, that's the worst case scenario. But I will commend this gentleman, is that he did go deal with it head on. He went and spoke to his employees about it, let them know. Nobody quit. Everyone was understanding. he still, even after he went and did that, beat himself up about it and got emotional about it, was turned it from like anxiety into anger. And I was like, well, you can't, like, there's no emotion here. This is business. You ever heard the cliche, like, this is business, it's not personal? That's what this is. And I said, bringing emotion into any of these decisions doesn't help it. It only hurts it. And what has to be done is you just have to, like, what is the one task I can do? And I gave him an analogy because he's a fitness dude too. And I said, look, imagine if you went to the gym and I said, okay, here's how we're going to get fit. I want you to do sit-ups, squats, deadlifts, and barbell curls at the same time. Ready, go.
Okay.
Like, it's impossible. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to work this thing out, you have to say, all right, well, first I'll do the barbell curls, and then I'll do the deadlifts, and then I'll do the squats, and then I'll do the sit-ups, and then you have worked it out.
Right.
So I tried to give him something because he is very good disciplined with his fitness routine. That, like, and he laughed at me and he's like, dick, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, no, that's seriously, you're trying to do deadlifts, sit-ups, squats, and curls to handle these business problems. Mm-hmm. And it's what happens is you're like, I don't know how to do that. So you do nothing and you get pissed and you get frustrated and, that's what happens. And it's like, everything in life is this way. All right. So think about it. Anything that you do, you can't do it all at once.
Right.
Like you can't take a shit and take a shower and brush your teeth and get dressed at the same time. Now, could you? Yeah, but it's going to be really fucking
hard.
messy.
Yeah.
And you're going to defeat the purpose. Right. So this is it. It's anything that you do, you kind of already know how to run a business. Right. And it's just do one thing at a time, get it done, and move on to the next thing. And every time you get something done, it's going to cause the next thing. It's going to give you like, okay, here's what's next now. And it's just it's an issue with people who have had this end of the spectrum view on money, whether it was lack or like, oh my God, I got some, I could finally do the thing.
Right.
When I used to do financial planning, I used to ask everybody, I would say, hey, did you get a refund from your taxes? And 9 out of 10 times they said yes. And I was like, okay, well, we'll have to change that. I don't want the government holding your money all year long.
Right.
Right. So you're going to speak to your accountant because I'm not a CPA, and we're going to make sure that's appropriate. You shouldn't be getting $27,000 back in a return. That means the government held it and you paid interest on this thing and you could have, blah, blah. So every time I asked them, and it was usually like 5,000, 8,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I said, all right, there's usually 3 things that people do with this refund they get. I'm like, so tell me what you did. And they tell me, and it was almost always one of these 3 things. The 3 things were they paid off a debt.
Right.
Okay, they went on a trip.
Yeah.
They bought that thing they always wanted to buy and said they couldn't afford. And this is exactly what business owners do. They pay off a debt.
Yep.
They go on a trip, and I don't mean a trip like they go away, but they decide to enter into a new thing. Like, we're going to run ads now.
Right.
Or we're going to revamp the website. They go on a trip, or they buy something that they always wanted that they couldn't afford, which could be an employee or a new truck or a sign on their store or whatever it is. And it's just psychology. This is how human beings deal with money. I was lucky enough to go through something called the Sandler Training Series. And it taught you what the psychology really was behind people's dealings with money.
Right.
And it was really a wonderful thing, and it helped me to ask questions better. That's why I believe I'm so good at when I coach, because I can ask really good questions, because I'm kind of looking at the forest through the tree. I'm seeing the forest through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So those people who are dealing with that, it's usually that's what happens is they were like, oh, I won't spend money on anything. I won't spend money on anything, even though they needed to in the beginning when they needed to actually spend some money.
Yeah.
Now they got the money, they're spending it on all the wrong places.
Exactly.
So both those ends are a disservice to what the goal in mind was, which is to build a healthy and successful and sustainable business.
Yep. 100%.
And then how do they deal with it, right? They deal with it with sales.
Well,
and
that's the other piece, right? Like, you got to go make the sales.
Yeah. No, but that's how they want to deal with it. And, I've seen a lot of people lately, maybe it's because of our course or anything else, but a lot of people are looking at LinkedIn as sales opportunity. Like, oh my God, LinkedIn's really good. It's a great opportunity. And while it is, I think they're looking at it wrong. They're being like, oh, I'm going to create content so I could do sales. I'm going to, do all my comments every single day so I could do sales. And I think what most people misjudge about social media or about networking or about going to conferences or any of these things. That is just the vehicle to get you the opportunity to go sell. That is not the place that you go sell.
Right.
And too many people think like, okay, I can, if I create really good hooks, if I do really good calls to action, I can sell. And it's like, no. This is just what gives you the opportunity to now go have a really genuine conversation with somebody. It is a conduit to good conversations.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because we were talking about that today in one of our group sessions. Like, somebody is struggling, like, no one is buying my stuff, right, from my post or from a DM. And you're right, no one is buying your stuff from a post or a DM. It's an opportunity to see who's interested in at least what you're saying, so that and to then decide and identify, are they a prospect for you? Are they a client that would buy your services? And people use LinkedIn, but they see, so many people see the DMs in LinkedIn as, you see the sales pitch right away. Oh, they connect with you and they're selling you something, right? And so it looks like a sales, whatever that, I don't know where I'm from today, a sales vehicle, but it's not. It's like you said, it's a conduit to making the sale. It's really just about connecting, networking, and determining whether or not this is a prospect for you. And if it is a prospect, you build a relationship, and then you work that nurturing to get them to a conversation and potentially a close. But it's a long game. And we're seeing that too. Some of the people that have been doing this for 6 months, we know that this works, but you are the product of the work you did 6 months ago. And this one guy is seeing some benefit and return on all of his effort over the last 6 months, because now he's nurtured and he's worked with people and he's setting up the relationships and he's setting up the calls and he's making some of the sales. But it's a long game. Everybody wants that dopamine response, that immediate satisfaction.
But the thing is, it can be immediate. That's
can
the thing.
Be.
No, but it really, really, really can be if you're understanding where you're at. If you're trying to, I don't know, what kind of analogy can I do? If you're trying to go swimming and you're in the middle of a desert, it's not going to work. Right. And if you're like, man, I'm going to swim in the desert. I'm going to swim in the desert. And you're doing the backstroke and not going anywhere. You're just getting sand in your eyes. It's not good, right? It's not a good feeling. Like, this is not what I wanted. But it's like, no. I have to walk through the desert so I can get to the ocean so I can go swim. And people aren't getting that. They're like, but I'm just gonna figure out a way to swim in the desert. And I'm like, bro,
right.
It's not going to happen. So it can happen instantly if you just keep walking through the desert. You'll hit the ocean, right? But that's what it means. Is if you're creating content, you're doing it consistently, that's where people get to know you. And then, they'll comment, and that's where you get to have a little bit of a conversation, and either you or they can move that into a DM. But still, that's not even the place to sell it. It's like, all right, let's go sell it. And you may have a funnel that you can drop them into, and that will sell it for you.
Right.
You may have another salesperson that you can hand this off to, and they'll sell it. Or it may be you, where you set up an appointment. That's what I love the most, is I have them come directly to me for the majority of what we do. And then I have a conversation. And I would say 7 out of 10 people, it's not a good fit either for me or for them.
Right.
But that's what you're doing, is you're just determining it. It's very much like dating. If you look at what this all is it's dating. And you don't just like go find someone and be like, hey, you want to date? No, you usually go out and you socialize and you see this person, you see them a few times. You're like, that person seems like they're really cool. Maybe I should talk to them. And then you talk to them a little bit more, like, wow, kind of like them. And you don't instantly like, hey, you want to get married and buy a house and get a dog and have kids? And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Like, I don't want to do that. It's the same process, right? And you don't just, and maybe that's the issue. I'm just realizing this as we're talking. Maybe it's the issue of like, there's so much online dating. You and I are in our late 40s, and we didn't have online dating when we met our wives. At least I didn't. Did you?
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Right. It's like,
it existed, but we didn't meet them that way.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was the beginning of if you met somebody online in early 2000, it was like, whoa, like what is this about? Yeah. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, I met my wife when I was a little kid, but then we really got together before there were iPhones invented. So that's crazy when I think about that. The point is that, like, maybe that is the issue, is this newer generation is so used to like swipe left, swipe right, and then we go on a date, and then you quickly go through that, like, do we want to screw or not?
Right.
Yeah. So there's this like expectation of like, let's just get through it. And there's no time to build a real relationship and
Correct.
understand it's not about, let me get them in bed or let me go out on a second date with them. What it's really about is, do I want to spend more time with you?
them. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that most people are missing, is they're not taking moments to say, hey, this opportunity I have in front of me, do I want this opportunity? And there's something that I say often is it an opportunity or is it your opportunity?
Right.
And too many people are just taking opportunities that aren't theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get in and they're like, this isn't working. Yeah, it's not working because it wasn't your opportunity, man.
Right.
So sometimes we have to be able to just take a step, go through it, have the conversation, but it's not on your content. It's not even in your comments. Most likely it's not even in your DMs. It's where you move them after that.
Correct.
And it is certainly okay to move them into a funnel or set up an appointment or do a call, but there needs to be a more in-depth information exchange, whether that's your website or you. But that's where it happens.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. You're right. Swipe left, swipe right. People don't spend the time building relationships. They just want to get to the date to see if that person's right for them. That's it. They rush the process, right? And because there's plenty of access, right? There's plenty of opportunities. Everybody's on the same thing, and there's plenty of opportunities, and they just want to find the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And that may also be because many people that we've worked with over the last few years, they're not locked in, meaning they don't really believe in what they're doing. They think it's a good idea. They're like, hey, this product or this service is a pretty good idea.
Right.
But they're really not all the way locked in and like, this is what I'm meant to do. And it's very hard to figure that out on your own, especially if you haven't done it before. There are plenty of business owners that we work with that have taken their previous profession and turned it into their current business. Mm-hmm. Those ones have a little bit easier of a road because they saw somebody else do it first.
Right.
But many of these other business owners, which I would say is 50% or more of who we work with, are people that like, this is their first business and it is a complete opposite or very, very different than what their jobs were before.
Correct.
Like someone who maybe worked at a bank and now, they're doing social media for somebody. It's like that has nothing to do with each other. So they can't lean on some of the experiences they had.
Right.
And then when they come in here, they're like, well, this is a good idea because people want it, but it doesn't necessarily mean you believe in it.
Correct.
And I think that's a lot of what our system does is let's flesh out if this is a good idea for you. And if it really is, great. Is it now a good idea for the audience that you're targeting? Okay. Right. Well, then why? Let's explain that. And that's where our 5 W's come in. But it's like it sometimes it just takes that second set of eyes, like you and I as coaches, or, even having a friend take a look at this or a mentor and be like, hey, what do you see? Because you start to get what's called confirmation bias, and you start finding ways to believe in it, but you're not really like, hey, this is definitely what I should be doing. And look, I'm guilty of this too, but I'm willing to cut ties quickly. I'm willing to be like, nah. And it's not about shiny object syndrome and I want the other thing. It's like, hey, I like to test. I like to test. I've done it my whole life. And it's like, let me feel this. Let me see who wants it out there. Even today, I had a client that was just like, I just want to be around you and Tom. And my brain's already like, are there ways to do that without creating a whole new thing? And there's not. We have stuff that we could plug people into, and there's not enough where I want to have just like, hey, come hang out with Adam and Tom and feel good. Mm-hmm. But there's times when you have to just be like, okay, this doesn't work for me. Forget the freaking audience. I don't care what you sell. You drive around your neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen, and just look, like go outside of your neighborhood, drive around where the stores are and the industrial parks, and every one of those buildings has a multimillionaire running it. Like, it's not that impressive to be a millionaire, by the way. Okay. It just isn't. Sorry. Right. But all those things are millionaires running it. And it doesn't mean that all these people around you are that much more disciplined, that much smarter, had that much better of a mousetrap to sell. They might be selling pipes for plumbing. They might be selling kitchen tiles. They might be selling ice cream cones or pizza or dresses or skincare or services like accounting and coaching. Like, you can do anything, but if you're not in it, you're not going to ever be successful unless you go home miserable every night.
Yeah.
And you're like, another day, I did the job. But if you started a business, that's usually why you started a business, because you didn't want to do those things any longer. You didn't want to feel gross when you went to bed every night.
It's amazing. Like when you think about some of the challenges that people put in front of them, it's because they've never had that experience before and they want to do this thing, but they're not sure how to go about it. And that's what creates more roadblocks and creates more obstacles for them to overcome. And it's such a mindset thing. Like when you go into this, when you decide that you're going to become a business owner, you got to believe in what it is and you got to make sure it works for you. But you also have to have the mindset of you're going to learn a lot, that this is a huge learning process. And you have to enter the whole process curious and open to learning and recognize that you don't know what you don't know. And so much of what you don't know is going to come out during that process. And that's what I think makes it hard for people to continue to believe in themselves and believe what they're doing, because they feel as though I went after this. I wanted to do this. I believed in it, but I feel like everybody or everything is against me right now. And they take on this victim mindset. And it's like, you can't be a victim if you're a business owner. And that goes back all the way to the money mindset conversation we started. It's all victimizing stuff. If you're going to be a successful business owner, there is no room for the victim. There is no room for that way of thinking, because it's about learning. It's about, you don't know what you don't know, but you're going to learn along the way. And if you keep learning and you keep asking questions and you remain curious, you will get to the success that you want to achieve without all of the noise and the mess. But everybody, because it's so new, they get caught up in all of the noise and the minutia of things.
But it's the learning, right? It's
right.
Like, look, when you have a job, and let's say you have a job, you get paid $150,000 a year, and you show up 9 to 5 and you do your job. If you do that, how do you make more money? You usually set up a retirement account, right? And you invest, right? And most people are doing the S&P 500, right? That's where they put their money. Well, when you're a business owner, you have to invest in the S&Me 500. You have to invest in yourself, right? That's where you're putting that investment to gain the skills, gain the knowledge, how to be a business owner, how to run ads, how to hire people, how to lead, how to manage, how to develop my product better. Like, you really have to invest in yourself. I mean, look, that's why Tom and I have a coaching practice, because we're constantly helping people with that investment in themselves, in their company, in their skill sets, in their problems, how to manage things, overcoming things, dealing with growth and expansion. I mean, all these things is, if you're not investing in yourself, then what are you investing in?
Correct.
Right? That's what it is.
Correct.
And if you're at that point where you're not going to constantly have this growth mindset, you're not going to always go back and learn, then maybe really business isn't for you. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. My wife has a wonderful career. My best friend has a wonderful career. Like, you don't have to start a business. But look, Tom and I, we're constantly reinvesting in ourselves, whether it's doing $1,000 programs or reading $20 books. You have to constantly learn and get better and do this thing. Otherwise, someone's going to eat your lunch. They're going to put you out of business.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I think I just went on a rant. Sorry, whoever's listening. Yeah. I feel like...
No, good. That was cathartic. I love the SME, man. The SME. That's...
I don't know who I stole it from. It's good.
It's all right. But it's great. It was perfect.
Me as a former, investment representative in dealing with wealth management and stuff like that, it stuck with me, that one. But it really is. Like, that's what most people do, is they make investment. People make investment in so many things, but they have a really tough time making investment in themselves. They didn't when they left high school. They might have went to college or trade school but they made that investment. But then when they're business owners, they think like, oh, I got my shit together and I'm just going to grind it out. Like, that doesn't work. It may work for a year or two, but it doesn't work forever.
All right, man. Wow. That was a good one.
All right. Well, what's give them some shit that they should know about? Maybe there's some stuff they should know about. Anything? Meaning like what we're doing.
Yeah. So we're excited. I'm excited to talk about the course that we've just finished. It's going to be coming out very soon. So stay tuned for the 5WH selling system course. It's coming out. And it's going to be awesome. And we're going to have a starter course. So look forward to some announcements on that. And we'll be putting links in the show notes when those things are ready to rock and roll.
I'm not excited about it. I'm relieved about it. And not relieved that it's done. I'm relieved that I truly believe, just like we were talking about before, I believe that Tom and I have found a more effective and efficient way to deliver this beautiful thing that we've created, this 5WH simple selling system, by having a course that people can study on their own, watch as many times, still fill out the workbooks, do all those things. And if that's good enough, that's good enough for them. And if they need more, there's ways to go through and communicate and get direct access to Tom and us live. So we feel this is a much more effective and efficient way to deliver this thing that most people need, which is better prospecting, better selling, overcoming sabotaging behaviors, eliminating the limiting beliefs, or at least understanding them, and really getting this attention management so you can consistently do these things. So I'm not excited about it. I'm just relieved that it's like, whew, better way. All right, with that, Tommy, let's go. We got places to be.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.